9:15.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Live from the New Scientist Labs, Janine Young, newscientist.com.
She joined us in Melbourne City once again. Janine Young, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you once again. Nice, if you're watching the live video stream there, nice brick background with some artwork there as well. It's very nice.
Yes, it's by a friend of my my fiance's. He's painted it. He's actually a Scottish artist, so it's really unique. If you see anything else like it.
It's always nice when you know the artist that's hanging up on your walls, that's for sure.
No, these are priceless. If anything happened to them, I'm not quite sure what we'd do.
Well, if we Googled him, would we find him?
Yeah, his name is actually Neil Cinnamon, but he goes under the name of Cinnamond, Cinnamond. So yeah, Google him. I'm sure he's got some really good stuff there as well.
Yeah, because Google is one of the things we're talking about today, and when we even talk about searching, we just say, oh, Google it, as opposed to let's Bing it, or let's I can't even think of another search engine. Let's Yahoo it? I don't know. Does Yahoo still have a search engine? I have no idea.
It does, yes. I think the likes of AOL are still out there as well.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone actually uses them. I think because Google has actually become a verb as well as a noun, it's one of those things you just go, well, I'll Google it. And it does seem to be the predominant search engine.
That's right. So the thing we're talking about today is there any room to improve? You know, can in fact Google improve their search, or could other competitors come and improve search?
Google is certainly trying. They already have domination over the market, as we already know. As we've just kind of outlined, really, when you think about it, I pop things into Google just because it tends to give me what I want, and well, why go elsewhere? But they also have a stranglehold on the market because their search is actually, on the whole, pretty good. It tends to give you what you want. It tends to do it fairly quickly. 60% of people who are searching the net are using Google. 2.4 billion searches a day, and apparently last year, $6.5 billion profit. So a few other people tend to be agreeing with me, which I suppose is a good or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. Google is always trying to find new ways to improve the technology that they're using. They've got a stranglehold on the market because of their web crawler technology. They were able to go through and take advantage of things like keywords and hyperlinks and how often sites are linked to one another. But there's a bunch of different technologies that they use that means that they tend to come up with the right results quickly and, most importantly perhaps, for free. If we had to pay for it, I think the amount of searching on the internet might change.
Yeah.
However, a number of organisations are trying to shift to things like semantic searching, trying to make it much more human-centric, human-friendly, looking at ways that they can make them much more human. Answering questions, for example. I might have, in fact I did yesterday, typed in a bunch of things like microorganisms in Gabbro, and it's simply because you need a number of terms to enter into a search. That means you'll actually get an answer at the other end, but it might not be enough. But there are times that you want to find something that is best a question. Now, I can't think of anything in particular right now, but you might want to come up with something that's a bit vague and a bit human and a bit, you can't quite explain it in 3 keywords. So they're certainly trying to make these a lot more human-centric. Searching for images is another one of those things that we tend to do. I certainly did it. I was looking for a friend the other day to see, if they actually had any images online. And that's fine. But when you're looking for something, again, a bit more abstract, say a pattern in wallpaper, it's much more difficult to be able to type that in if you don't actually know what that pattern is.
Yeah.
Now, if you worked at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, I'm sure you'd have a very good idea of that particular type of wallpaper and you could describe it quite accurately. But to the rest of us, it doesn't quite work that way. So there are some technologies out there, and again, Google is at the forefront of this. They have a search engine called Goggle, very cute, that you can actually send in a snippet, a picture of, say, a wallpaper that you're interested in. It goes through and then matches against a number of thousand, if not more, images in their Goggle library and tries to match against it and get back to you. Now, to be able to improve that, there's another company that's taking what they call a signature. So it's effectively the key points of that image, a snapshot, if you like, and doing a much quicker search against also a very large number of images. So being able to break it down means that you can actually do it a lot more quickly. They say a lot more accurately. I'm sure Google would dispute that, but
Yeah.
I'm sure Google would dispute everything. But other ways to improve searching can include interrogating people's search terms. There's a number of organisations that are looking at things like Twitter, Facebook, search terms to try and work out what's going on in real time. Again, Google, they really are going for world domination. It's very clear. They have a service called Flu Trends, trying to look at where influenza is at any given time on the planet. Now, of course, it shifts with season, so it's going to vary as to whether or not it's in the southern or the northern hemisphere or the like. But they've found that if people are typing in search engines related to flu, so terms related to congestion, influenza, snotty nose, decongestant, that kind of thing, then it's actually a very good predictor of where flu is, and you can actually see it travelling up to a week earlier than the official sources of, say, the Centres for Disease Control in the United States. So it's interesting that being able to use search terms can actually be a very accurate way of predicting what's going on in the very, very near future and being very sure of what's happening at the moment. So speed and involvement of what's going on with searching is unlikely to get a lot faster. There's a whole bunch of the web we can't get to, for example. It's called the deep web. So the surface web that we can get to, they think that they can actually do that maybe a little bit quicker, but on the whole, I think we're okay with the speed that we've got. But it's actually making it a bit more human and trying to find it a bit more complex in many respects, trying to make it a bit more sophisticated. So all in all, we're fairly happy with what we've got. I think most people would agree, but they're just trying to make it a bit more sophisticated from here on in.
Well, and certainly Google can't find what hasn't already been discovered, I suppose, by man, and that includes our next story, the fact that life has just been discovered very, very deep down, the furthest down they've ever found any kind of form of life. How far down, though, Janine?
1,391 metres,
Golly.
which is a pretty long way when you think about it. The way the Earth's crust is structured is that you have sediment on top, then you have a layer of basalt. Below that you have something called gabbro, which is similar in a way to basalt, but it's different enough that it's actually constructed. That's just above the mantle. Now, they've found a bunch of microorganisms in the sediment. Obviously, that's the bit we live on. And then you have the basalt underneath that as well. They've found a bunch of microorganisms in that before. But there's a place in the central Atlantic Ocean called Atlantis Massif that they have amount of the gabbro, because of tectonic activity, it's been pushed fairly close to the surface. It's only 70 metres below the ocean. So they've been able to get down into it. Oil riggers, just out of interest, can drill up to 9 kilometres down into basalt, but it's not so easy to get down to the gabbro. There's various reasons for that, apparently, but this is the first time, as you said, that they've found microorganisms in this gabbro layer, as I said, nearly 1,400 metres below the ground. And they've found that these are bugs that eat hydrocarbons, so methane, benzene, that kind of thing, and they think that it's very likely that they developed closer to the surface and then burrowed their way down instead of developing down and staying down.
Fools.
It's 102 degrees down there.
Yeah, fools,
So,
don't they know that
you know,
it's better up here than down there?
They might disagree with you, because it would appear they have everything they need. There's not a lot of them, but they're very widespread across the layer.
Yeah.
So it proves that life is absolutely everywhere, and we'd be, I think, foolish to think that you're not going to find it pretty much everywhere on Earth.
So potentially there could be life even further down than what they found this bacteria.
They could, but the challenge is getting down to it. That's the tricky bit.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Janine. Those stories will be in the New Scientist magazine coming out next week, and also online as well, newscientist.com. And we'll talk to you, Janine, in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, see you later.
And time now here on Kiwi is 27 minutes past 9. Got a